Hey there, seekers of spiritual, tangible results.
Welcome to the No Nonsense Zone, where common sense meets the spiritual. I'm Jason Parks.
I'm Emma Romano, your unapologetically real spiritual guides.
We don't sugarcoat, we don't dance around the woo-woo, we just deliver the raw, kick-ass truth.
Join us each episode as we dive deep into the mystical, cut through the bullshit, and show you how to manifest the tangible results you've been craving for.
No fluff, no filters, just two mentors on a mission to elevate your mind, body and soul.
Get ready to transform your life like never before. This is Soul Aligned Results, where spirituality meets the real world.
Welcome to Soul Aligned Results. I'm Jason Parks, spiritual mentor and energetic therapy specialist. And with me, as always, is the amazing
Emma Romano. Hi, it's me.
It's Emma.
Right.
And Emma, for those of you who don't know Emma is an internationally renowned trauma and relationship expert, amongst a whole heap of other things.
Thank you so much. Thank you. How are we today, folks? Thank you so much for tuning in. Jason, do you want to give housekeeping rules first?
Yeah, let's get into that, all the things. So if you like what we're saying and you think it's valuable, please do the like and subscribe thing. If you'd like to know more about us in what we do and be part of that, so we have a website, which is soulalignedresults.com, and that talks about retreats, about mentoring, about masterclasses, all that sort of extra levels of information. So yeah, we've played this game before. Everybody's played this game before now.
Yeah.
So
Got you. We got
let's
you.
get into it. Yeah.
Okay. So Jason, today we're talking about no skills in pills. I love this title. No skills in pills. What are we talking about today?
Well, what we're talking about is really how in the process of healing, there's stages. And in order to get beyond those very first stages, we have to develop skills. Personal development is absolutely vital in the process of healing. And that statement, no skills in pills, I heard this recently, and it's a wonderful statement because it really summarizes why people don't heal. So shall we get into it? Let's go for it.
Yeah, first off, I'm going to ask a question just to clarify for listeners. What's the difference between personal development and healing?
Well, really, there's not much. So
Can I answer it?
yeah.
The way I interpret it?
Yeah.
For me, healing is you can heal from a cut on your arm and not think about it. If your body will just naturally heal it. You can have something wrong with your body and it will just heal itself. You can go through a really hard time and then forget about it and think you've healed. To me, personal development is character development.
Yeah.
So for me, personal development is to develop me personally, my character. So it's to look at my behaviors, learn different ways of rewiring my behaviors, rewiring my thoughts, rewiring my feelings, pulling out negative emotions, being okay with still being angry, sad, shame, guilt, hurt, all of that, if it's in a non-toxic way.
Yeah.
That to me is personal development. Healing, for me, is a bypass of the development.
The interesting perspective.
Because healing, and I tell you why, there's too many people in our industry who are sitting there going, oh, I'll just go and see a Reiki practitioner because my husband's a narcissist, or I'll get an oracle card reading, or I'll get an energy healing, something like that. They're all fantastic, amazing, but it's not the full journey. Because you can get an energy healing, you can get a healing done, or you think you can heal, but the personal development is no behaviors are changed. If no behaviors are changing, you've still got a reoccurring problem.
This is a big thing. Yeah. My perspective on healing is a little bit different because I look at healing as a much big, you're talking about healing as like the first step in the process.
Yeah.
And personal development as the second. And I look at healing, genuine healing, as being the third.
Yes.
So when that goes beyond that, because what you're saying is spot on. I completely agree. Without that, you're not healing. What you're doing is what we call a car wash. So
Yes, exactly.
yeah. So if you think about when you go and see somebody, like I'm an energetic therapy specialist, and what that means is that I'm not doing massage, I'm not doing whatever, I'm not doing naturopathy, I'm not doing any of those things. What I'm doing is strictly looking at energetic dynamics, looking at energetic systems, and going much, much deeper into that than most people do. And when I first started that work, I was strictly doing car wash work. People would come to me and it's like, oh, I've got entity attachments, I've got this, I've got that. Because most of the people that I work with are skilled. So a very small percentage of people I work with are new to this. And it would be less than 1%, absolutely less than 1%, maybe a quarter of a percent. And everyone else is skilled. And the reason is because the work that I do is at the end of the market, for want of a better term, where people can't get that. But the way in which I work allows me to do that. So that's where, that's where Emma and you and I met, because
That's how we met. Yeah.
somebody said, there's this guy that can get this. And then you were like, I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you've got the
And
skills
that's
to
how
handle
we
it.
started. Because you were doing car washes on me. And it was actually me who said to you, I went, I need more than this.
Yeah.
I need you to actually mentor me.
Yeah.
And then that's where the whole mentoring journey started.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yes. So it had been, I had been in a Buddhist order. I'd had disciples, like formal disciples and so forth. So I've been through that process for many years, but I put it away for a long time
Yeah.
and hadn't done any of it. And it's lovely to be able to step back into that. But it's the difference between the when you start doing the car wash work, people come in and yes, you clear all the negativity off them, you get them in their peak condition, and then you send them out in the world. And what they do is they drive all over the muddy roads again, and then they come back and they go, can you please do this? Now, you can do that. It's valuable work. But there's also a point where you're like, it would have been nice if we didn't have to keep hosing you off every Friday.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
this is what you get to do. So what happened is over time, more and more. So when I do a session, I do energy work, but then I also do what I talk about is strategies around energy work. So it's like, okay, this is the information that you need to have so that you don't have to keep coming back to me all the time. I don't want you coming back to me to do the same thing. In fact, I really cannot stand it. So, because there should be growth. That's what this stuff does. It punches a hole in that restriction and allows you to move forward. But if you haven't developed your character or you don't have the skills to be able to move forward through that gap, then you won't go anywhere. You'll just sit there and look at the window as it gently closes. And that's one of the biggest things in what people refer to as feelings that you're talking about, Emma, because people don't know how to take that next step. They watch the window open, they look through the window, and then they watch the window close without having taken any steps. Because that's not about the modalities. It's not about whether it's energetic work or physical work. One of those things where a lot of people that have chronic illness, often they got medicines, right? And I say they got medicines because that's usually what happens after a while, is that they will have every supplement. They're not taking them. Right? Their cupboards are full of them, right? So it's just, if you're not using them, they're not going to work. And so with that, there's a lot of different things that come with that, but that's why the mentoring, the personal development is important, because being able to take someone forward so that even though, like, I work with people on a regular basis. A lot of my clients I've worked with for a number of years now. And like Emma's a prime example. I said, we work together every week, right? But we don't work on the same thing.
No.
If we worked on the same thing and there wasn't progress, this would be me going, what the hell is going on?
That would be a problem.
That would be a problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important for everybody listening to understand that. I used to work in disability employment and many, many years ago. And in that, what you're dealing with in disability employment is people who have, through circumstance, been put into economically a very difficult position. And I met people who were fantastic in their jobs, had worked very hard their entire life, been very, very successful, and then maybe they had a heart attack or maybe they had a stroke. And I remember meeting one fellow who used to design the security systems, electronic systems. He used to design all these things the electricians would then fit. Now, he was at work one day and then he woke up and apparently it was 10 days later and he had tubes stuck up his nose. And he's like, I don't understand where I am. And they're like, well, you've got an acquired brain injury because you had a heart attack and it cut the blood off to your brain.
Wow.
And now you can't do your career anymore because you don't have the cognitive ability to be able to put together one of these systems where someone won't die trying to wire it up.
Yeah.
And it was like that, like on one level, no fault of his own. It's just a tragic circumstance. And you meet a lot of people and everybody's got their story. And that's one thing you learn about that sort of work is that everybody's got their story. And I used to have to do, when you do the intakes and you'd be sitting there and people come in and sit people down and say, please grab a seat. And they'd sit down and I would start with something along the lines of, what brings you here today? And people would always start with, well, it's a bit of a sad story. And I would say to people, I just want to make this very clear. I already know that because you're sitting in that chair. So the only reason you get to sit in that chair is because you have had a sad story. So we're not going to spend time talking about that sad story. We're going to talk about where the story goes from this point on.
Mm.
And because it was a healing role, disability employment is a healing job. You are helping people to heal because if you don't have work, then you're limited to what the government welfare will provide you. And by and large, welfare is so far beyond below the level of poverty that your options are so terribly low. And I remember meeting people who would say different things like, I would really like, if I could get like an extra $5 a fortnight, I could take a bus out to this suburb.
Wow.
And you just go, how limited do people's horizons become? Where it's like, we don't think about that. People, they talk about want to change the amount of the dole or something, and people jump up and down about it because we're enabling dole bludgers. And it's like, really? You have no idea what it's like to be on welfare in any form and how much it restricts your life. So in that role, you meet a lot of people and you're part of you're a different end of the healing industry. But the reason I say it's healing is because I remember when I first started, we had this boss that said to us, you need to understand that if you do your job right, you change people's lives for the better. And it was brilliant advice because it's right. If you get the right placement with the right employer, and that person now, their self-esteem lifts, their finances lift, their opportunities lift. So they can really heal on a number of levels. And we don't really think about that. Like if a person I've been in that situation where I was so ill, and I know, Emma, you have certainly, like so ill. I remember when I just had a complete collapse, complete burnout, complete everything. And I was at home, I had 2 young daughters and my wife had to go to work and we were getting by. We were surviving, but that was all. And I used to tell people say, what do you do? And I'd say, oh, I'm a stay-at-home dad. And people would say one of 2 things, right? The first thing that people would say is, and this is probably 20% of the time, they'd make comments along the lines that you must be a pedophile or a sex offender, that you're not working home with kids, hanging around with the young kids. Or the other one, which it did blow my mind after a while, I got over that. Then the other one that I used to get most was that you'd say it to guys and guys would go, oh, yeah, stay-at-home dad, that's great. I remember I did that. I took my long service and I spent 6 months with my kids and it was wonderful. We do all this stuff. And I remember sitting at the time dying inside because there's a difference when you are a stay-at-home dad because that's it. Having being a stay-at-home dad because you took your long service, meaning that you knew you had a job to go back to, you knew you had prospects, you were getting paid for the entire time you were doing it. I didn't have that. What I had was doctors telling me, you're rooted. You are not, this is your life now, right? I was what they used to call disability employment on the other side of the desk, right? So that's where I was. So the amount of shame that it does. So if you think about, you get somebody a job, you take them out of that situation, well, what happens is everyone around them, who they become, changes. And if they're working on themselves, what happens is relationships with their spouse gets better, their family gets better, who they project into their children, the trauma that those children are going to have to carry or not carry. So all of those things are a really important part of it. But this is where we look at healing as a bigger picture. And the reason I started on this was I met a person one time who I looked at their medical files and I couldn't understand it. And I was looking at it and I said to them, can you please explain about like what's happened with the thing? Because this person had a really good career. They were really good at it. Life was going along brilliantly. And then one day they had their back went bang. They were in immense pain. They went and saw their GP. The GP said, you have misaligned vertebrae in your back. Nothing can be done. We just give you painkillers. And they agreed with it. And I looked at them and I said, I don't understand. Like, so you've got like a perforated disc or crumbling vertebra or pinched nerve. And they're going, no, my vertebra in my back's misaligned. And I said, did you like lay in a hot bath for 15 minutes and then look over your left shoulder once? Because your back would have gone crunch and then not misaligned. Go see a chiropractor, see an osteopath, do whatever. It never occurred to them. They saw a doctor. The doctor told them nothing could be done. So they just sat there in pain, eating painkillers like lollies.
But they were in agreement with what the doctor said.
Completely. So they gave away their career. They gave away their business, their cash flow, the flow and effect in every aspect of their life because they got into an idea that it was like nothing can be done. And that agreement. So
I've been there.
Yeah, me too.
I was there when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. They said, look, you can't heal this. I'm like, okay, so this is what's going to happen. You're going to be depressed. You're going to have fatigue. I went, okay. And I literally got all of it.
Yeah. That's right.
I was in agreement with the whole lot. It was literally like I was hypnotized. If they had told me that I was going to cluck like a chicken for 3 months, I would have been clucking like a chicken for 3 months. Trust me. I was in full-blown agreement.
Well, it happens.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important. Many years ago, I was studying natural therapies, and in one of the lectures we were at, one of the people in the room, one of the students, was a psychiatrist. And it was interesting because we were doing acupuncture theory and so forth. And this is back in the very, very early 90s. So it was all a bit new, really. And this psychiatrist was looking at it, and he got asked this question. It was like, well, how do you, like, what do you recommend? Because they're talking about how you can use certain points to alleviate addiction symptoms and depression and things like that. And he was really interested about it. And they said, well, like in your trade, like how do you deal with it? And he said, well, it's just really important to know that I came from a pharmaceutical background, and you need to know that when you talk to psychiatrists, depending on their training is what they're going to tell you your options are. So he said, I know people that have come from a surgery background, so therefore they'll talk to you about surgical intervention. He said, I came from a pharmaceutical background, so I'll talk to you about medication. So the doctor's training is dictating what options they're presenting you.
Yeah.
It is really like everything else, let the buyer beware. You have to look at it and say, well, does this fit for me? Does this work for me? But that's part of the skills. Being able to hold your ground, being able to go, wait a minute, this is me we're talking about, not fucking textbook. That is a skill.
Here's a question. Here's a question for everybody out there. You ever go to a psychiatrist or anything like that, and they say, I recommend this? Ask them this one question. Give me a percentage of the people you refer this pill to.
Yeah, interesting question.
And if they say to you, oh, most of my clients, run. because they're not talking to you. They're just talking to a general. This is what we do generally for this problem.
That's right. Yeah.
And then the second question before, if you have a run, is this: how much better are they after 3 months?
Yeah.
Right? And if they say, oh, look, we can't judge that, we don't have it, get out. Run. It's not for you. It's definitely not for you. Medication can be really, really helpful. But I believe when people are on medication, they need that mix of the Western and the healing and the development. You can have all of it at the same time. You don't want to just be dwelling in one pocket. You want to be sitting. It's called holistic because it's a whole lot.
Yeah, exactly.
It's many, many things. But people, I think I was, when I was going through all my issues 10 years ago or 11 years ago now, I was just too scared to ask questions. I was just like, yeah, okay. Because I was in such trauma.
This is the key point.
Yeah, because I was so freaking scared. I'm in a trauma state. And I have 2 natural trauma states. One is people please, and the other one is fight. I was in so much trauma. Then the third one for me is usually freeze. I was actually people please and freeze.
Yeah.
I wasn't in fight. If I was in fight, I would have been asking questions and say, oi, there's no way. That didn't come for months, that fight part.
Yeah.
But I was just sitting there going, okay. Like I was talking to God himself and he had the freaking Holy Grail. I'm like, if this tablet helps, I'll take it. I'll take anything. You tell me to run down the road skipping, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But it's because I was in a trauma state. I didn't have questions. So this is where I say to all of you, if you've got somebody, all our beautiful listeners, if you've got somebody who's going through stuff, these are the questions. Maybe go with them. Maybe text them the questions so then they can look at their phone while they're in the appointment and ask these questions. Because you want tangible results.
It's a really interesting thing. I had an experience in China where, because I grew up in the country, and in the country, and Emma, you have the same background too, not exactly,
Not country,
but the same cultural background, which is in the country, doctors are seen as gods. If a doctor tells you something, that's it. The doctor's right, no matter what it is. Even though when we see them on a personal level and we see the character and we think that guy's a fucking idiot, we still will sit there and listen to them tell you what to do.
Absolutely.
And believe it.
I had Dr. Thomas from the age of 2 all the way up to about 18 or something. And then he retired. His beard was completely yellow from smoking and he was a GP.
Yeah.
And whatever he told me to do, I'd go, okay.
Yeah.
And he might tell me but Dr. Thomas said, I'm a 71 baby. So we were still in that belief system. And my mom and my grandmother, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
The doctor that was it. That was law.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And it's just a paradigm. It's just a cultural belief that we're buying into.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
but one of the things I want to come back on the thing that you said there about the holistic effect. The thing about healing is a big picture issue, and you have to understand what different trades do. One of the biggest problems, I think, in medicine in Australia and healthcare in Australia is that nobody fucking refers. Everybody thinks that they got to go it alone. Now, there's a problem with that. Now, they use natural medicine terms, right? They talk about natural medicine and they talk about allopathic medicine or Western medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the things that we don't understand in places like Australia is that we think that Western medicine is medicine. That is crisis medicine that is available to less than 20% of the world's population. That's what that is. The other 80% of the world uses what they call medicine, which is natural medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because if you don't have access to pharmaceuticals and surgery, then what do? Well, you just do what everyone else has done for thousands of years. You figure the shit out. Right?
That's it.
And
You rub some aloe vera oil on that shit. That's what you do.
that's right, yeah. But as we part much more sophisticated, we look at it and we go, oh, well, the West. I said it's not. This is because of a paradigm, and that paradigm was caused by two significant things: World War One and World War Two.
Mhm.
In World War One and World War Two, crisis medicine specialists had an almost unlimited amount of bodies to work on, and they had almost unlimited test subjects with different rules. If you were working in World War One, it was really about anesthetics, because it was like, we need powerful anesthetics. So they were able to push the boundaries on that to get the support, the financing, to get everything they need to move anesthetics forward. Now, I used to live in Launceston, and Launceston, to my knowledge, there's a statue of a doctor there. And that doctor was the first guy to perform like ether surgery in the world.
Wow.
Right? And that was in Lonnie, right? So, and then from that, it fed back to England, and from England, it fed into other areas. But it was really an experimental procedure. World War One came along, and they had to create new things. World War Two came along, and because war had become much bigger and more sophisticated, they had to develop a lot more, a bigger differences in surgery and in antibiotics and all these sorts of things. So it allowed that aspect of medicine, which is only an aspect, which is built around crisis, that it allowed it to move forward. But one of the things that allopathic medicine cannot do, and it's not its fault. It's like, if you go to a butcher, you buy meat, you don't buy bread. You go to a baker to buy bread. Well, when you go and see a crisis medicine specialist, what they don't sell is chronic cure. That's what natural medicine is for.
Yeah.
Because natural medicine says, in extreme cases, you need crisis. And if you get through crisis, then what you have to do is you have to move into chronic medicine, which is how I build the body moving forward in a holistic fashion, so that the body, the mind, the emotions, everything moves forward in that process. And in doing that, we get proper healing. In Australia and in America and in a lot of places around the world, we have very, very strong political legislation around what is possible with healing. And that's being dictated entirely by the acute medicine community. It is not being dictated at all by the natural medicine community. And part of that is the natural medicine community's fault, because they won't stop fighting with each other long enough to actually put forward a decent unified front of why natural medicine is an important part of the healing process. But in different parts of the world, places like India, like China, Israel, Germany, said you have very advanced Western medicine integrated with very advanced holistic medicine.
Same with Mexico.
Yeah, all around the world. There's all these different cultures that are doing different things with it.
Yep.
You know, like in Australia, my understanding about chemotherapy, because my father went through it for 9 years, and what he was told by Western doctors in that was that, like in Australia, it's one size fits all. Is that basically you go in, you have chemotherapy. It's a generic term. So if you're in Germany, they test your DNA, and then they map your DNA, and then they work out which treatment of chemotherapy is going to be most in alignment with your genetic makeup, which means that you have reduced complications and you have better outcomes, but also reduced complications and reduced side effects. Side effects are an incredible idea because they're not real. You don't have side effects. If you take a drug that changes your brain chemistry and helps flatten out the tops and the bottoms of
the depression and the too many highs and too many lows.
Yeah. But it has a side effect that it ruins your kidneys and your heart health and your nervous system and does that. That is what the drug does. It is a marketing ploy to turn around and say, the drug cures this and these are side effects. It's like, no, there are only effects. And the reason that you have those effects is because it's the cost of development by pharmaceutical companies. Most of the cost of development happens from the point, like the minimal cost is getting it to a point where it's sellable. And they worked on that through lobbying legislation. So if you're allowed to sell it at this stage of development, say 20% of the way in the process, then you have a certain amount of cost. But you have an immense amount of cost getting that last 80%. Because that last 80% is the eradication of negative side effects. And companies, it's not financially viable in the model that we have for them to do that. So it's also not politically viable for them to do that. So they don't have to do that. They just have to get it to a point. And the reason is because our economic model is built around a thing called externalities. That is, if I build a product that creates 6 problems, solve 1 problem, creates 6, that's good business, because now I can create 6 cures to those problems. And now I sell 7 products, not 1 product. And that's how it's all built. And the reason is because it's only treating one end of the healing spectrum. In holistic medicine, what happens is you look at it and you say, okay, should people take medication? Absolutely. Under certain circumstances. Should they have surgery? Should they have radiation chemo? Absolutely. Under certain circumstances. However, one size fits all is not certain circumstances. Some people do not, and to do it by itself is next to useless. Because healing, and this is where we were talking before, like we have what we think is healing, and then we have personal development, and then we have what's on the other side. And from my perspective, what's on the other side is that integration. Healing is not about restoring where we were, of going, I was okay, I got sick, I took tablets, I'm not sick anymore, now I'm back to where I was. That's not healing. That's just going back to where you were before you got sick last time. So you've just done a loop, come back around to the start point.
Yeah.
If you don't change that, you're going to keep looping, and that's called chronic, right? To keep going around and around the same level is chronic. So what I need to do is I need to understand that healing is about advancement of my capacity. And I can't do that without personal development. I can't do that without working on my character, on my thinking, on my emotion, because it is really, for us to get any change, we have to change 5 things. And we've talked about this many times on this podcast, and I'm going to talk about it again.
Yep.
Right? So
go for it.
You have to change your reality, and your level of health is a reality. You have to change how you think about it, how you think about you, how you think about your life. That has to change. And you have to bring it into a more expansive view. You cannot have a negative, limited, restrictive view of yourself and everything around you and think you're going to get positive growth. That is not in alignment. That's crazy. That's what that is. That is crazy. So you have to change how you think about it. You have to change the emotions that run through your body, because emotions, as we experience them, are chemicals. They are hormones created in the body, and those hormones are interacting with the cells of the body. And our body adapts to be more efficient at receiving those hormones. So, super, super concise version of that, you have receptors on your cell membranes. And if you are happy all the time and you're washing your body with happy hormones like oxytocin, then what happens is those cells adapt and they create more oxytocin receivers, so you can be more efficient at absorbing oxytocin because it is the prevalent chemical. But if you are washing your system with cortisol and the chemical emotions of depression and failure and shame, if you're doing that, then your cells will adapt to that. Now, washing themselves in those chemicals and attaching those chemicals are literally mutating your cells. And if you mutate your cells in a direction that is against healing, you're going to get sick. So you have to change your emotional state, which is really about decision making. You got to change those emotional states so you can start to change biochemistry. You need to change what you say, because not only are you reinforcing the first 2, you're also giving yourself community support. Now you've got everybody else getting into alignment with you by what's coming out of your mouth. I mean, one of the things that was really interesting, I mean, your tactic that you used was profoundly simple and brilliant. When you had MS and you started to say, when you started to move it to deal with that problem of everybody else, you started to say it was misdiagnosed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
First I
and then
called
people
it
can understand it.
first I called it the MS. I stopped saying my MS,
Yeah,
and then I started saying the MS. So I started
yeah,
disassociating from it, and then it was, "No, I've been misdiagnosed." Now, I didn't say that outwardly to a lot of people
yeah,
because they didn't get it. I tried it, they didn't get it. And this is another thing. It's a conversation I had with my son yesterday. He was telling his big plan to his brother, and his brother was pulling him down about it, being negative about it. And I said to Ben, I went, "Be careful who you tell.
yeah,
Be careful who you tell." Because when I was healing and I came off the medication, because the medication was not working for me, everybody was against it. And I mean, everyone, my husband, my mom, everybody, everyone around me was like, "Don't do it." So I just did it quietly.
yeah,
I didn't tell anyone, and so it worked. So I would say to myself, I've been completely misdiagnosed with this. This is not even mine. It's not even me.
yeah.
It's super powerful. But
It
then
is.
you don't get to say, "This isn't mine," and then look at yourself in the mirror and go, "You're horrible, you're terrible, you're horrendous, you're gross." You have to be in alignment with health, because if you're saying, "This is not mine anymore, I've been diagnosed," well, what am I then? I'm not still sick. I have vitality, I have health. So you have to talk to yourself in that manner. You have to think in that manner. That's the hard part. It's the hard part to consistently do that, because I'm telling you now, what got people in the chronic illness in the first place was self shit talk.
Absolutely.
And it's a
Yeah,
default program. So you
yeah,
have to undo the default program. And that default program comes up and rears its ugly head the most when you're stressed out, overwhelmed, and tired.
yeah,
Your body will, your brain will go straight to that. And so you just go, "Well, stop, swap it, get super present, and then do a positive action
yeah,
towards that health, vitality." Yeah, health and vitality. That's what I run in my whole system, is health and vitality.
yeah, yeah. And that's a key point. Like,
Yeah.
because that's the next thing, is that not only do you have to change what you say, but you have to change what you do.
Oh,
You
yeah.
you
The
cannot.
action is
The
huge.
action is everything, right? Because when you have the way you think, the way you feel, what you say, what you do, you have them in alignment, then you can do the fifth one. And the fifth one is where healing happens, is that you are now completely integrated and in alignment with health. You are now embodying health.
Yeah.
And in doing that, everything is running as a single unit. Now, we're not saying, it probably sounds a little bit like we are, so I'm just going to clarify this. We're not saying that if you're on medication, you should go off your meds.
No.
We're not saying that.
No, 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 no,
Medication
no.
is part of the healing process.
Yeah.
If somebody's put you on medication, then they've done it for a reason, because you're demonstrating that you need it. You know, your body maybe needs it, it doesn't have it.
Yep.
And so it's not intelligent to just drop it
I
and
think I need
run.
to clarify something about the medication I was on. So the medication I was on, it was 2 pills, and it was there was very few 11 years ago, there was very few medication go on for multiple sclerosis. I think there was 3. And I went on the easiest one, but it ended up giving me heart palpitations and a misaligned heartbeat. And I got very depressed on it and anxious, and the fatigue was horrendous. So I had a lot of those effects. Everything, there was no good in it. It wasn't taking away any of the numbness. In fact, I was getting worse and worse and worse and worse on it. But I was
Compounding.
also getting worse because my self-talk to myself and my actions were depleting as well.
Yeah.
So it's this and that. It's not this or that. And I think people need to really understand that. Oh, it's this or that. No, it's this and that. So
Yeah.
if you're on medication and you feel that's working, keep it and do the other stuff as well.
Well, it's like everything. Medication is really part of a system. And
Yeah.
the way you change a system is that you build another system that makes the first one redundant. When you do that,
Exactly.
that's how you move it. I've often had people I've worked with where they're getting better, their health their health outcomes are improving, and they say, "Oh, I want to get off the medication." It's like, well, don't talk to me, right?
Yeah, I'm not a
What you
doctor,
need
by
to
the
do,
way.
yeah, what you need
Go
to
to the
do is
doctor.
you need to go and see the person that put you on it.
That's
But
right.
but make your case. Make
Yeah.
your case. Don't say, "I want to get off it," because they're
Yeah,
immediately going to
why?
say, yeah,
Mm.
you go, "Okay, I want to have tests around this, this, and this
Yeah,
because I can see the difference."
yeah.
And then when they've got the figures in front of them, they can see the difference. And most times, like in the vast majority of cases that I've worked with people where they do that, they get massive reductions or off their medication
Yeah.
simply because they're building everything else up.
Mhm.
I think,
Happens all the time in yours and my business. Happens all the time.
yeah,
I
because
mean,
what
we
we're doing
got
is,
how many clients come to us and they're on antidepressant and anti-anxiety and Xanax, and they're on about 4 or 5 because those tablets cause so many effects. So a
Yeah.
lot of people come and see, and like in our retreats, my God, there was one guy, he was on 5 different medications and he was 48 and been on them since I think he was 16 or something.
yeah,
And now he's on 1.
yeah,
And that was only 5, 6 months ago, I think, he came
Yeah.
to our retreat. Amazing, amazing story because we built up, or he built up, we showed him how, and he built up the infrastructure to support himself without those pills.
and that's the trick. And I think that's such a big point. I think we need a part 2 on this one, Emma.
I think we do too.
Yeah, because it's such a big subject. So yeah,
Can I just give a little analogy around pills? This might help people. It's like saying, I'm sick, so I'm going to have this pill, this one pill that's going to fix me. No self-development involved, nothing else involved, no healings, no energy, no looking at my shit, no talking to myself beautifully. I'm just going to have this one pill. Imagine that one pill is a potato. And you're relying on this one potato until you get better. What do you think your chances are? I would say slim to fucking none.
Yep.
But if you have that potato and you have some broccoli and you have some greens and an apple and an orange and you have all these other things, what's your likelihood of healing then? So much better because you're filling your body full of nutrients.
yeah,
You know, and it's just a little analogy of thinking like that. Don't ever rely on one thing to fix you. Nothing will fix you but yourself.
you're a complex system.
Yeah, you're a healing system. In
Yeah.
fact, it's really, really hard for the body not to heal itself.
Yeah, that's all it does. But I think
That's its purpose.
I think that's next one because we don't want to crack that one open
Okay.
right now
All
unless
right.
we can follow through.
Okay. So let's sign off. We'll see you on part 2. Anything else you want to say, Jason, before we sign off?
No, thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Taking down a rabbit
everybody.
hole, this one.
Yeah, this is a big one. This is a big one. All right, guys, we love you. Mwah. Catch us in our website, on Facebook, Insta, wherever. Please share our podcast. Let us know how you feel about things and if you'd like us to address an issue for you. If you want to work with us, get on our podcast, go alignmentdocs.com and you can contact us. See you guys. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.